GM. It's Monday, April 4th, Lucky Trader Lounge. We'll be talking about Azuki, their surge over the past week, and what it means for the rest of the NFT market, and upcoming drops for this coming week. Tyler, welcome back. It was a good week in one that I think not sure how in depth you were following the market over the past week, but it seemed like a market that you would have been pretty interested in because I know you have the Azuki background. You've kind of been a fan since they started. So what's your initial take from this Azuki surge this past week?
Yeah, I was away on my first family vacation. I was unplugged for about 7 days. We were in Isle of Palm outside of Charleston. And I think the whole market should thank me because we're now in a full-on bull rage NFT market led by Azukis. So I was in bed early most nights. So I was already asleep Thursday night. I think it was the night that the airdrop came out. So I was catching up first thing in the morning when I woke up and, see that, we just got a 6 ETH airdrop per Azuki. So definitely was on absolute cloud 9. And then it was just Azuki mania all weekend. It was crazy to watch. I was glued to the sales feed all day Saturday before it slowed down a bit on Sunday. But it was a really fun weekend for anyone in the Azuki ecosystem for sure.
Yeah, and I think it was the type of thing where it went from around 12 ETH potentially a couple weeks ago. I think it started the week around 18 or so. I think on Monday or Tuesday when I did that article, they were at 18. And one thing that I noticed is they were kind of pumping with that, and they were the only thing in the market pumping and just 4x the rest of second place project in the 24-hour type of volume. It was like everything was behind, and it got up over 30 ETH floor, and then it got a little pullback. I think there are a couple things involved, but then you saw some of that money moving towards Clonex and Doodles as well. So I think it kind of trickled a little bit into some of the other blue chips. The other big one was Cyber Brokers went up over 5 ETH through the weekend. And then, so yeah, from Azuki itself, how much of this do you think was the drop itself versus we saw it was, that was the 31st, right? No, 30th when they had the party and they dropped this airdrop. Azuki went down to in the 50 and 16 range for, I don't know, half an hour, and then it came back up to 18 and then just lift off after that. So let's talk about the airdrop a little bit because we had a show on Thursday kind of trying to figure out what's in the box, and originally it came out as a pile of dirt. So what was your thought when you saw that pile of dirt?
Yes, my hot take, I still feel like eventually we're going to get the evil Azukis, and that's going to be the version of mutants or whatnot. That's going to be the next companion set. So this doesn't feel like it's that just yet. I almost feel like, is it something that will help the current Azukis prepare for this upcoming battle against the evil Azukis? But clearly they're going to be at war with something. They've all got weapons for the most part. So I feel like that's a part of the lore. There was hints at it being, I saw some great predictions. One that it was going to be like a yokai or like a little pet companion. But then with the dirt, now it seems like we're going to get, potentially the blue beans could be the next get here, but I don't know exactly what they're going to hatch into. It's anyone's guess at this point. I'm curious what some of the best predictions that you've seen are.
Yeah, because the part that's a little weird to me here on this most recent version of the reveal is yeah, Zagabond came out and said something along the lines of, this blue creature took over the account or got my password. That's what he said.
Mhm.
And you can see at the top, like, there are blue beans that are spray painting in red. So the actual images on these NFTs are red beans. So are they blue? Are they red? I think that was one of our, we did that post that was what people, we asked a few different people in the industry, like what they thought was in the box. And a couple of them talked about beans and this idea that, maybe because you got two, this is sort of a theory that I'm currently on, is you got one red, one blue as the
Mhm.
holder. A lot of people have sold since, bought different ones, so you might not still have it unless you haven't touched it. But my thought is they want some sort of, if you have one of each, then that's the way to do it. I don't know if there's like, it's tough because there's been so many changing hands already, and we don't have metadata on it. You'd have to kind of like go back and see what people originally owned. But that's my thought, is everyone got dropped one red, one blue.
That's a good prediction, and I don't think it's going to be tied to the Azuki that you own because the cereals are different.
Right.
Uh, so
I mean, the original two that got dropped. Like, if you sold one, you don't know which of the two, red or blue, that you sold,
right,
kind of thing.
and I think it'd be really fun if they were derived in some way from your Azuki, and that's like I personally hold both red bean and blue bean Azukis because I was hoping that bean would mean something in the
Yeah.
future, and it very well might. But given the mechanics of this drop, I'm not certain that it will be a derivative of your existing Azuki NFT. But I like your theory, and it's going to be really interesting what constitutes a full set of Azukis here coming out of this airdrop. Just like we know, like the full BAYC set is a Bored Ape, M1, M2, and the dog is the full set. And a perfect set is matching cereal on the dog
Yeah.
as well. So the speculation out there for Azukis is it's Azuki, the two beans, and Bobu to complete the full set. And I'll go a step further and say you also need a Midnight Breeze to complete the full Azuki set.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I don't think people know about that one as much. But my take on the Bobu is, so that ran, I think
It's so
people
hard.
bought it not knowing what they were buying, in my opinion, because my thought is it doesn't matter. Like, you could say, oh, Bobu's going to have something to do with this. I don't think owning a Bobu as of now can have anything to do with it. I think it would have to go through a proposal because it wasn't originally, when people bought, it wasn't part of that plan. So I feel like the holders of Boo Boo do have the voting rights and the ability to change it. And one thing we've talked about before is the team does have the majority on that, so they could, in a sense, overturn that. But I think it would have to come to a proposal, and at that point is, I think, when I would buy in. Right now, obviously, it came right back down to 0.15. It got up, I don't know, 0.45, I think,
Yeah,
was the highest I saw.
and it was what, like 0.08 the day before, or even that morning, and then just like the whole market decided, okay, Bobu is the play.
It's the cheapest way to get involved. Yeah. So what's your reasoning with the Midnight Breeze?
So this is more of just Azuki Twitter, but if you follow a lot of the main accounts, you'll start to see a trend that a lot of Azuki owners use the Midnight Breeze art for their NFT, their Twitter banner, the header
Hmm.
on their Twitter page. And the artist is Dutch Tide, who's got, I'd say, pretty universally wide uh, or positive market sentiment tied to him. Um, so the artist is well liked. I mean, I think the art itself is pretty nice. It's got its own set of rarities, and we've seen the market respond. So this pumped earlier, like a few months back, right after the Azuki wave first kind of hit this set, because they weren't initially tied, and then they started kind of getting this informal tie, and then we saw it run back over this weekend. So it was at a 0.34 and it jumped about 60% to 0.5. So I think as we get new owners into this space, there'll be some more increased demand for the Midnight Breeze as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting one that I don't think as many people know about. And if it does become one of those things like a whitelist or something where you need to be a holder or holders of it are going to get onto something else within the Azuki universe, it's a smaller supply to it. So it could be something that could run for people that maybe don't have one or the other or want, a cheaper way of getting in, because as of now, the something which is now Beanz is over 5 Ethereum. So if this is the cheapest way to get on some sort of raffle or anything like that, I could definitely see that being a play down the road. So yeah, so that basically Azuki has been just everybody's been talking about over the past week or so. It pretty much has solidified itself as above Doodles and Clone X right now. It seems like it's the top hype in like cool PFP to have right now as well. So a lot of people have been talking negatively about the Doodles because they haven't done an airdrop like this. There's a lot of negative talk about spaceships, which I don't really like because it's really showing some true colors from people as far as like, oh, you didn't get airdropped $20,000, so you're mad about it now. But I think the project that got hurt the most from Azuki is the Gutter Cats. Gutter Cat juice basically got thrown to the side. Azuki became everything. The clones came out, the reveal. I did one that had like an alien fur one, but the floor is like under 0.6 right now for clones. I think the juices are still higher for cats, but the overall juices have taken a hit as well, and I think it's almost like people just forgot about them because it was just Azuki everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few takeaways from the Azuki market run, and on the Gutter Cats, you're spot on. They definitely got their hype wave hurt because what the clones launched Thursday night as well. I think so. They were the same day, and then there was some really
and they were
big
pumping
hype
up until the airdrop announcement, like that party.
It was up to like 1.5, right?
Yeah, cats got to 1.5. Dogs were like 0.6, and just everything pulled back like 60% or whatever. So
I think the challenge the cats are going to have is this delivery timeline and keeping everyone's attention.
Yeah.
Throughout the rollout of all the additional species.
Yeah. And if there's utility to the additional species, like they just haven't give a lot of details on anything. And I think that's currently hurting them because people don't know of like a reason right now to hold it or want one compared to some other stuff. Because I think the talk right now is they're not going to be part of the token drop. So why do you need one? I think that's sort of the 180 that has come on with it. But anyway, so let's talk about a little of stuff that's coming up this week. We have the Rug Radio, Rug DAO. So this token is finally coming out. What's your thoughts on this? Because I feel like it's weird. Each week, it's like some weeks you just hear all about Rug Radio, and other weeks you don't hear anything about it. And there's been some negative talk around like Farouk in general. And now Rug DAO Council is being formed and sort of that next step in the Rug Radio process.
Yeah, so they just completed their elections, so to speak, for the Rug DAO Council. 33 members were voted by the community. The top 33 vote getters landed on the council. And now they're moving forward with their roadmap and launching the RDAO token. So I think a part of the dip in the rug token price and market cap was tied to the delays in RDAO. I think originally we thought the RDAO was going to launch sooner, and then they pushed it back a bit. But now they're taking that next step and moving forward along the RugDAO roadmap. And I thought it might make sense just to pull up their site and talk a little bit about where they're at. So on their page here, they talk about the DAO Council, the 33 members. They're pretty much going to be focused on setting up governance frameworks for the RugDAO. How proposals will work, how voting will work, everything like that. And then as we scroll through the roadmap here, so the DAO launch is the focus of phase 2, and that's what we're going to see happen today on April 4th. The RDAO token goes live. Each member of the DAO Council is going to get a token, and then they'll be able to be exchanged at an 1,800 to 1 ratio for rug token holders. So the whole point of the whole utility of the rug token that you earn from owning the Genesis NFTs, and then you can accrue in that learn to earn model by attending classes or attending spaces and whatnot, is to ultimately exchange the rug tokens for the rug DAO, so that you can participate in ownership of the overall DAO.
And if you've been staking your DAO, the rug for the rug tokens, then you can go in and check and see how many of those tokens you've accrued over time. You're also dropped an initial amount of tokens. I think it's the type of thing you said it was 1,800. I think you had to pretty much buy unless you had higher than scarce, based on the airdrop. If you only had one, you had to have multiple, because it was I want to say 1,100 was scarce or something like that, and you're only accruing 7 per day. So I think you had to have either something more than that, or you would have to be buying some of these tokens. So that could boost the price. I know that the price of the token crashed pretty hard after the initial spike, but is this our DAO token completely separate from the rug token, because it's just for governance, right?
It is. I am curious how it will trade on the open market. And you would think that they would be pegged at some ratio,
like 1/1800th of
that should be the peg. But the RDAO token is a bet on the value of Rug Radio and potentially being a leading Web3 media company, if you believe in the vision and Farouk's ability to execute that along with the other founders.
Yeah.
So certainly there's high upside for anyone who can capture that market. I'm curious. I feel like what's challenging about the token market right now is that NFTs are so hot that I think people are switching focus right now from tokens like Ape. I mean, Ape is down 20% in the past few weeks, or in the past few days, rather, as the NFTs have started to run. And I don't know that folks are going to be putting a whole lot of liquidity towards RDAO early on here. But it'll certainly be interesting to watch and see how the initial values come out.
And based on right now, I think Rug got under 10 cents at one point. It's about 25 cents now. So this is in the range of like $400 to $500 for one of these RDAO tokens. And yeah, like you said, I think other coins are hot right now as well. Obviously, like Ethereum's pretty much over. It's what now? Yeah, like the 3,400. So a lot of these other tokens have been doing well over the past week. And like you mentioned, like I think this Azuki trickle down has had some effect in the market, and people are looking for stuff to mint this week, and they're because of the previous even month, let's say, of just poor minting. I think that's hurt some of just projects don't want to come out with mint right now, and we might see that change a little here in the near future. A lot of teams have pushed back their mint date, and so we might see some teams that you might have previously saw that they were going to do a mint, and then they held it off, coming back out now. But yeah, this one is something that we've been sort of waiting. I'm not sure. I think I had enough tokens. I think I got them earlier when it dropped a little. I added some tokens because I wanted to have that 1800 to potentially have one of these for the governance of it. And we'll see. The other big drop last week was that pre-mint. I'm not sure if you got in or part of that, but if RDAO, if they're going to have these rug radio shows that bring on new projects, and maybe they get connected with pre-mint or something like that, I think they're going to have to do stuff like that to get people interested again in it. Because I'm not sure. I don't know.
And
Do you
that was
think
always
spaces have been as hot?
I think they're definitely still pretty hot, and it seems to be that the number one forum for information and media for NFTs right now. And Farouk's spaces still command thousands of attendees, so can't dispute that. I think what's surprising to me a little bit is you're spot on with pre-mint. One of the initial bonuses or utility for owning the Rug Radio NFTs was to get on whitelists, and we haven't really seen that, or at least I haven't seen that, and that's a little surprising to me. So to your point, I think there were some expectations of that happening, and they'll need to kind of update the holder base on it. Are they just waiting on some special mints, coming out?
Yeah.
Or kind of
I have a hot take. Well, somewhat of a hot take, but there have been all these IRL NFT events, and Farouk is going to all of them. I feel like he just isn't 100% working on the reg radio stuff because he's at these real events, and potentially he's making the connections there instead. And maybe that's why we hadn't heard from him in a little bit, but who knows really.
No, I actually agree with that hot take. And this is nothing against Farouk, but Farouk's a busy guy. And he launched Rug Radio, and he's on Twitter Spaces 6 to 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So when I see that, I'm like, so who's building Rug DAO?
Yeah.
Right? And then, I think that their Syndicate DAO has been brought in to help structure the DAO and lead it. And Mel is a part of this. And I've been a little away from it for the past few weeks, but that was, potentially a bearish sign to me. I think you're spot on. With as busy as Farouk is, who's building all of this, but maybe the council will help on that as well. So there's more folks involved. But certainly a promising month. And I think a part of this too is this is something that's going to take a while to build. This is a longer term play. It always was a longer term play. And we're all just so short term focused in NFTs because of how fast this market moves and the opportunity cost of everything. So I think long term, the vision, the bull case is all still there. It's just been a little slow moving.
Yeah. So then I think there aren't too many things that are just straight up minting this week that are super notable. There's this Drifter Shoots. He's doing in open editions, and it's probably, I would guess, the most popular mint of the week, expectations wise, because I think he's generally liked within the community, and a lot of his stuff is just out of reach for a lot of people price wise. So this could be a way to get in at a little cheaper entry point. This is on the 9th, which is Saturday. So what's your thought on this one? I think it seems like one to keep your eye on.
Yeah, I think it's going to smash. So X copy sold 7,400 max pain at 1 ETH. in his 10-minute window for that open edition. So I think Drift is going to sell at least 7,000, which of course still would only be about 20% revenue. I don't expect him
It's
to
all this
match.
picture.
So I don't know full details. I've been trying to figure that out, and his Twitter page is very hard to sort through because he retweets a lot of things, and I love that he does that. And I love
like every time he gets tagged in something, he's retweeting it. I feel like.
So like I had this post pulled up. If you only get to choose one of these four, which do you choose?
Right.
And then the New York City self-portrait is the one that was on that other tweet. I was kind of hoping it would be open edition for the four, and everyone gets to choose.
Yeah,
what
that's
they
cool
want,
when they do it that way.
or get a full set of the four. Because if it's done that way, I'll likely get a full set of the four. His previous edition has performed very well. I want to say it was up like 6 to 8x.
Yeah, he did one on OpenSea. It was an 1155. There's 200 copies of it that minted at 0.25, I believe, and that got over 2 ETH.
Yeah.
This, if it's completely open edition, and is it longer than 10 minutes? That
we don't know. He said more details to come, and yeah, I definitely don't expect an open edition to see the same like 8x price increase as a capped edition. Like Max Payne, we saw it almost double in the first day of trading, but it's back. It's down, actually below mint. I think I saw it at 0.97 ETH this morning. So certainly the mint size and the supply is going to come into factor. But I think it's going to be a huge mint. And like you said, I think Drift is pretty much universally liked at this point in the NFT space. And this is the cheapest way to get one of his pieces.
Yeah. I think it somewhat depends on how much, because 7,400 copies at 1 ETH is a lot. I think if that minted, say that they had the same amount, like the 7,400, but it minted at 0.2, it would probably still be a 1 ETH floor right now. It's kind of weird. It almost like, if you have too high of a mint cost, then it's almost hard to keep that high of a price after. But we'll see. I would expect this to be less than 1 ETH. That's just me. And it's going to be through Nifty Gateway as well, right?
No, so he's doing his own custom site.
Okay.
And it's 0.2. So the price has been confirmed. So it's 0.2 ETH. So it is lower entry. And what he's doing with his own site, he's not having to pay a platform fee, which he says is typically 15%. So he's donating that 15% to essentially a bond charity out of Cincinnati that helps raise bond funds for people who have been in prison, which of course is a big part of his story and narrative. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he has a cool background. I think in general, he's someone that's sort of like on my list of people to bring on a show at some point in time. He's an Azuki holder as well. He was tweeting a little about Azuki's recently. We were trying to get him for one of the quotes on that post we had. But
I think he's got like dozens. I think he's got more than 10, I think he has a large set. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't follow him, definitely give him a follow, because the videos he posts are just amazing. How he gets these photos. It's pretty cool. And yeah, he's previously Marines. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
In some sort of army. And yeah, basically he climbs up to the tops of buildings and bridges and takes cool pictures. He's the where my Vans go guy, basically. And yeah, all these pictures, he climbed up there and took them. So he's got a pretty cool story. So if you don't know, definitely look into that. And we'll see. So this is on Saturday. Keep your eye out for it, because it'll probably be the talk of town on Saturday, depending. Who knows? There's other things coming up. The main stuff that we were going to talk about today, since there's not as many new mints coming, I think reveals are going to be hot this week, and that's going to be the post-reveal dumps. Maybe are going to be a little different this week. And I don't know, that maybe that's the wrong take and it's going to be similar to every other. But my thought is like liquidity is going into these projects that are going to be revealing because there's not new mints as much. So what's your thought on that? Would you agree, or something's going to pop up that people are going to have liquidity towards?
It's tough, and I haven't fully wrapped my head around kind of this new meta, but I definitely think we're entering a new bull cycle. And I'm starting to think the theme of this next bull cycle is going to be blue chip consolidation. And we've already started to see that with some of the Azuki rotation. So the Azuki funds have primarily went to like, or it feels like, I don't have the data to back this up, but it feels like CloneX and Doodles have been the primary beneficiaries. And then there's been some, also there's been some that has rotated to other anime projects like Kiwami and Akuma. I'm wondering if those are kind of more short-term beneficiaries,
Yeah.
and then still that they'll run and then fall, kind of like we saw in the anime narrative from like January, right? With Lives of Asuna, Killer GFs. I mean, those all ran to like crazy prices, like 2 to 5 ETH floor, and then they dropped 80, 90%. What does that mean for the reveals this week? I think it's a little bit different because we've got some big reveals. So Impostors, if we want to start there, this is a project from LEO Trades. You might know a little bit more about this than me. I think FaZe Banks is tied into this. It's a play and earn type world. I've got their website. We can just go ahead and go to it. So it's play and earn, social deduction game. He's calling it a AAA social gaming metaverse, which I'm not a gamer. It feels like getting that AAA tag means like a certain amount of development has gone into it. So I'm curious how long they've been.
It's basically like the top end companies that make games. So something that would make like a Call of Duty would be a AAA. And the reason I think in this case, I believe it, like people throw that around a lot, but in this case, they have FaZe Banks as an advisor, and he's big in the esports scene. So I think he does have some connections to help them with the gaming side of it. And he's had a few posts in their Discord about like, you want to be a part of this, you won't regret it. Elio Trades, this is like his project. He's big in the space as well. So yeah, I think the AAA social gaming metaverse, the problem with that is how long it takes to build it out. We never really know. So
this is not a typical reveal, especially like you mentioned, this is going to be a longer term play. But the other LEO Trades has a huge following. When I think about Alex Becker and his projects, which I kind of put them on the same line of influencers, and his products have all crushed. So I could certainly see this doing well, and I would not bet against it. But certainly some risk, and I don't really know how the reveal will go. I don't know enough about how the rarities and whatnot will play a part of the overall game. But man, 7,000 ETH traded in just a few days, 1.984. I mean, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, there's a couple things. If you go back to the site, a couple things I think of note. If you scroll down a little further, I think they have a breakout of like times. Yeah, so week 2, they're saying staking. I'm not sure if that's if we're considered week 1 right now. Like once it reveals a week later, staking maybe. So the staking play has been a thing in the past where that creates a little bit of a supply squeeze. So if you're investing, it's still, I mean, it's 2 ETH floor or so right now. So it's not a cheap buy by any means. And this is staying, you're going to earn blood tokens. Once you find out what the price of those tokens are, how much you're earning, that's going to decide a lot of it as well. But then what they have is they have these UFOs coming in week 4, and then pets coming in week 6. So they have a couple airdrops coming right away, which I don't know if that's better or worse, if you might need to have stuff staked in order to be a part of that. But I don't know. What's your take on that, on
So
having that quick?
it's a good way to keep attention early, and it worked for Creeps, right? Didn't
Yeah.
Creeps follow a pretty similar model, and their valuations got
Yep.
crazy? I think they've since fallen back to earth a bit. So I definitely get that model, and I think it will be, at least in the short term, a positive. So kind of looking at this roadmap in more detail here, just live on the show, like I'm getting more bullish on this as a potential trade here.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna be looking hard at it.
And the part of it, which I don't know if it's a good or bad thing either, but they had a high mint price. So it's not like these came out of a 0.1 mint. It was 0.69 for the public, or no, the pre-sale was 0.69 and public was 0.96, and it pretty much immediately sold out at the 0.96. So it's been above 1 basically since minting, and pretty much holding. I think people like the idea of Elliott Trades being part of this and Phase Banks. So to get it off of your point on rarity, people I was talking with, we don't, in general, staking projects, rarity doesn't really matter. Like long term, it's more of a short term play. However, in this case, we're thinking maybe some of the traits would be based on the game. So maybe, let's just say like levels, that's a trait on some things. Maybe there's stats attached to your character, and maybe you want the better stats. Like we saw this with Raid Party, where if you had like a perfect stat, the max of it, then you're trading at a premium. But it's the type of thing where I don't think aesthetic type of rarity is going to matter as much in this case.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then it just begs the question how to play this. Do you buy in pre-reveal or buy post-reveal if you think there's going to be a dip? But it's tough to predict. And we've got some bull tailwinds right now. So I don't know that we'll necessarily see a huge post-reveal dip on this one.
Yeah. So then this question is actually good for transitioning into Akuma, but what do you think about the anime meta right now and how it's progressing? I am in a project that's currently building, so nothing revealed yet. However, they released their first graphic novel. He's talking about Noble Thieves. And so what do you think about this current anime meta? Is it really just Akuma and Kawami that are coming out of this as the benefits here, or do you think once these Akuma reveal, then it's just going to fall off, kind of what we saw in the past with like Lives of Azuna?
I am worried that it's going to be closer to the latter. So we saw this anime meta on the back of Azuki's in January, just like we talked about. And now Azuki's is pumping again, and now these other anime projects have launched just at the perfect time, coincidentally, and now they're all pumping as well. I don't know. I think these are definitely at more of a risk of a post-reveal drop, but on the flip side, I think people like the Akuma artwork.
Yeah,
specifically. Like I'm showing
kind of like
Gorillas.
Examples.
Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of.
I've heard that it's like a combination of anime and Gorillas.
Yeah,
and it looks good. Like at least these previews, they do look good. So I think that's really what it all comes down to on a post reveal, is if the artwork is good and people resonate with it, it's probably not going to be a huge dip. And then the biggest factor for me in any PFP is if you start to see people using it as their profile pictures on Twitter. If you actually start to see that, catch some momentum and a meaningful base, that's when it really becomes a product to look at. And I think that's something that definitely struck me with the Azuki's early on, was how many people were using them. And then I started seeing the IRL meetups that were happening really early on in LA. And that definitely caught my attention. There's not that many products have that degree of in real life community and networking. So this is definitely one to watch, and it's definitely going to be one of the bigger reveals of the week. Looking at the art, talking through it right now, I think if I choose bullish reveal, bearish reveal, I think it's going to be bullish. I think we could see it go up.
Yeah, and RA is talking about the Mori with Haas, and I think one thing that we see a lot is some things will last long term, but this is like pre-reveal. It's not going to completely dump because people still want that rare lotto. What if they get one of the high end stuff? If you had it and you sold it at this 1 ETH, but you could have gotten 10 ETH for it or something. Because basically what you're showing right now, I'd guess something like that one all the way to the right with that mask. Probably sells a bit of a premium.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen some, as we always do with this stuff, like the Azuki derivatives have popped up. The Dzuki actually did kind of well over the weekend, but this isn't really a derivative. It's its own thing. But Kiwami, after reveal, dumped to about 0.4, and then it pumped again back over 1 ETH. So it's a little, that one, if you want to say it's going to follow a similar path, then maybe it would be good to buy the dip on it potentially. This one, I didn't really love it after the reveal. And this might sound weird, but like the hands, whenever something's like in the hands, kind of looks weird to me. Just like the way that they're like holding stuff. And maybe that's because sometimes they don't have a hand, other times they do. But I, as you mentioned, I like the Akuma art a little better. I don't have either of these currently, but to be, I think a lot of it has to do with what happens when the reveal of the art comes out. Like, do they all look the same? Do all of the ones on the floor look the same? Are there really cool high end ones? Because I think that's what helped Azuki early on, is like the high end ones were like really cool. So people really wanted the high end ones, but the floors also didn't look terrible. I think that's one thing that held back Doodles for a little bit, was their floors kind of weren't much of anything. So why spend 15 ETH on something that is like a kind of a dud as far as the project goes? So I think that's what happens with the reveals, really. So what's your thought on that? Like, do you think if the reveal comes out and the art is really cool, we just see it keep going, running up?
Yeah, I definitely do. With this amount of bull market tailwinds, if we see I changed the page, but if the Akuma art is good, we'll see it run up. And we've seen just how quickly these products can move. So like Cyber Brokers was also a huge winner of the past few days. They had fallen back down to like 2 ETH. They're already back to 5 in just like 2 days, like over the weekend. They basically jumped that much. So that's how much liquidity is on the sidelines and ready to pounce. And when the market decides, like universally, to go after something, it happens fast. So I think there'll be a lot of eyes.
Yeah, and that could be a good transition. But I know one that's coming up. We'll probably talk about it in the future, though, is the Moonbirds. It's similar to what you're saying. It seems like universally people are just accepting that it's going to go at a high mint. It's going to be a Dutch auction starting at 2.5 ETH. But this one's connected to Kevin Rose and Proof. Proof floor is about 70 ETH currently. So people want to get attached to something connected in that way. It's the official PFP for Proof. So what's your thought on this one? Because this one seems like an absolute smash. I saw people on Twitter talking about they're selling their spot for 5 ETH, and it's pretty wild out there.
Yeah, it's one that. Well, first, I think this is the project launch of April. This and Yuga Land are the two main items to focus on. I hate that everyone is just. I feel like Moonbirds was a secret for a little while, and now it's not a secret anymore. And not only that, everyone is just openly talking about it being a gas war at the top of the Dutch auction.
Yeah.
So originally I thought people might hold the line. On the proof, people held the line really well. So it started at the 5 ETH Dutch auction, like 250 folks fired at the top, then everyone stopped, and ended up minting out at 1, which has been just an insane ROI at a 1 ETH mint. It doesn't seem like that is where we are trending right now, and people are already loading up for a gas war at the top of the Dutch auction. And I know several folks who are talking about preparing like 25 ETH just to get ready for this mint. It seems like a slam dunk.
Yeah. And I think, as you mentioned, like this could be the top mint of the month. I think there's a couple others that haven't come out with a date yet, but that Imaginary Ones is another one that's been super hyped, has a massive following.
Mm-hmm.
And like Utopia is another one that I've heard has a pretty good following. It seems like mints are scattered, but my thought is with this recent somewhat bull run associated with Azuki and all of the money that's been thrown around from their airdrop, I could see things popping out and being hot mints, like stealth mints, or at least like maybe not stealth as in, all right, we're dropping right now, but more like, okay, next week, like it's not currently on our radar, but
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden we see this random thing is minting out quickly and people FOMO in and it becomes something good like that. That 8-bit me that we were both we were looking at like a week ago, that's been pumping recently. I don't know where
Mm-hmm.
that came from. I think we might see that with some of these lower end price points. Just as people now have, there's people out there that just like have a little extra money and trying to figure out ways to go about getting into it. And maybe it is just getting into these things like imposters that, okay, it's revealing in 48 hours. So I'm going to buy in now, try for the rare lotto. We'll see how that goes. And like Akuma and things like that. That could be what the new meta becomes. Maybe it's less of minting new stuff and more trying to get on things that are already riding waves.
Yeah, and this happens every cycle, but I will warn our listeners, especially those who are newer. It's a mistake I made. It's a mistake that almost everyone makes. It's when you sell a blue chip to try to chase the next blue chip, and like for instance, selling an Azuki at 30 to get 15 imposters. And this isn't a knock on imposters, but be careful doing that, right? Like it's kind of the best plays that we've seen in NFTs have been like, let your bulls run, let your winners run, hold on to those,
Yeah.
and don't just go chasing the next one. And I know this from personal experience. I sold Bored Ape in their first run when they got to like 6 to 7 ETH floor, chasing. I used the proceeds to buy rare Wicked Craniums. And how's that trade landed over time? So that's just a personal example from me. I think certainly that's what we're seeing, and we see it in every one of these cycles as folks try to chase the new winner. And I get it. That's where the potential ROI is, but just know that a lot of these projects are going to turn to zero. And that is a fact.
Yeah.
So just be careful.
And I don't know if this is alpha or anything, or just kind of reading off of a page more so, but crypto brokers has doubled in the last 3 days. So it seems like people are choosing that in that range of the 3 to 5. They're up with basically invisible friends now, and Cool Cats is kind of in that range. Gutter Cats, Wow, are all in that sort of 8 range. That's one that's pushed up. We'll see sort of what the reasoning is behind that. I think there's some sort of whitelist for holding it right now. That's one that I could see people holding and kind of rallying around as it's on chain and the artist is sort of big in the crypto Twitter space already. That one's been pushed up a little bit. People talk about things like Three Landers a lot in this range. We'll probably talk about Forgotten Runes here in the next couple weeks. They have stuff coming up.
Mm-hmm.
They're in that like 2 to 3 range as well. So that's the type of stuff that I'd probably look at right now instead of chasing like a doodles at 17 ETH or whatever. Um, Try to figure out what that next like crypto or cyber brokers that's in the 3 ETH range that could hop up over 5. Those are the types of things that I think looking for in this type of market is probably best for people that are in that price range.
Yeah, totally agree. And right off the bat, it's Moonbirds and Yuga Land, right, are going to be in that price range. So personally, that's where I'll be focused.
Yeah.
But I think you're spot on.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, like if you don't have any ape coin, you've been kind of waiting around. This could be that dip time. They obviously in the original video just said April. We don't know if that's end of April, mid-April, but the time to buy could be around now when there's other stuff that people are talking about that are sort of distracting. It's what like $11.30 right now for ape. It's not at that $15 range that we saw a week ago. So it is a little cheaper if you're looking to buy, 100 or however much. We still don't know the exact that you might need. Um, the way I've been doing it is DCA with looks rewards. When I sell something on looks, I just turn that into ape. That's
Nice.
basically what I've been doing. Or on that like X2Y2 platform. If you're like earning it in other ways, then it's not like taking from your other like bankroll basically. So yeah, maybe it's a good time to be accumulating ape, as you mentioned, while people aren't thinking about it. So we'll see.
Definitely.
Is there anything else that you were looking at this upcoming week that you thought would be of note?
Not really. Overall, I was genuinely surprised at the lack of big drops this week. The big one was Anata that we thought was going
Yeah.
to release, but it looks like we don't know when it's going to come out. And
Yeah.
I get them wanting to do it right, and I definitely applaud them for that. But I think it's hurt some of the momentum that they had. I think they were being looked at as one of the projects to chase after, and I think that chatter has disappeared a bit. And if their launch date is close to Moonbirds, it's not going to go as well, in my opinion. So we'll see. I'm not quite as bullish on that Mint as I was a couple weeks ago when we thought it was ready to launch. And of course, the product hasn't changed, the business hasn't changed, but timing and narrative are important, and where the attention in the market is. And they had a window where they had a lot of attention, and I'm not sure that window is going to remain open for them if they delay too much longer.
Yeah, and I think one note on that is if people that are listening, we had a show with Super Nifty, and if you have any of his imps that he put out, you can now create. So I could set it up on here. I think I was testing it out through OBS. If you like make your own video, but he set it up where you could take your avatar and like it would be in front of my screen right now over me and doing the mouth and like head nods and stuff like that. He created it where you can go in and download for your avatar the ability to do that. But yeah, I think if Anato is dropping this week, like markets frothy for it, it would have been really good timing. So like you said, like it's somewhat bearish to hear that they keep pushing it off. Like maybe they just weren't ready, and they thought they could hold it off before because like the market was a little quieter. But man, if they dropped this week, that would have been a big one that I think people would have sort of rallied behind because it also has that anime meta to it. So we'll see if that comes out. Obviously, like we'll have that note on Lucky NFT News. We'll be posting if we hear more information on when they switch that date to. There's been a lot of information from like the UK on NFT stuff today. They have a few different things as far as like stable coins and just rules in general. And then we are going to have a show on it, but it is about 2 weeks from today, tax day. That's been a hot topic. We do have a few different articles on the site if you're interested. to learn more about what to do with taxes. If you haven't started yet, I'll say from personal experience, you probably want to do that like right now. You want to start because there's a lot of effort involved. Like none of the programs are exactly 100%. You pretty much have to go in and find things like cost basis on things that some of these softwares just don't have the ability to do right now or is inaccurate, and you just want to get in there. So that's something I wanted to note. I don't think we're going to do like a tax specific show or anything like that, but we do have the articles on the Lucky Trader site. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check that out. It'll be in the show notes below. Yeah, and if you guys have any other topics that you have interest in us doing like little videos on or talk about on future shows, let us know in the comment section. We last week we did for our Thursday show, it was just trying to figure out what's in those Azuki crates. So things like that. I'm sure we'll probably have more information on the Drifter drop on Thursday that we'll talk about. So yeah, we'll see you guys on Thursday, and good luck out there if you're buying into any of these reveals and trying to hit something rare. So we'll catch you guys on Thursday.